Hey, Honest community. Before we dive into this episode, we've got a quick free favour to ask. If you enjoyed the Honest Property podcast, please hit like, follow, and subscribe wherever you're listening from. It helps us grow, reach more people, and bring on guests that you want to hear from. Thanks for being a part of this. We appreciate you more than you know.
Hello, you're listening to the Honest Property Podcast with your hosts Becky and Ruth, the Honest Property Sisters. We've built a multi-million pound property portfolio over the last 12 years, and on this podcast, we love having unfiltered chats about building wealth, purpose, and freedom that actually feels good for you. So, the topic of today is whether or not diversification still matters, the Freelancer Edition. So in an age of viral investing advice, in an age of viral investing advice, there are crypto memes and get rich quick schemes everywhere. And
That's been around
diversification,
forever.
yeah, and they're really exciting. But the topic of diversification feels, frankly, quite boring.
Yeah.
But we're thinking that maybe boring is the whole point.
But I want to also say as well that if you are a freelancer, you are probably someone who gets so excited and pumped out about ideas constantly. And it can be very easy for you to get swept up
Shiny.
with a shiny penny. I mean,
Yep,
we will put hands
we
up and
did.
say that we did one point in
Mm.
our business life. But it can just to be so, you have to have so much self-awareness of not being sucked into these get rich quick um facades, really, because they are going to drain your money and your time, and ultimately the boring strategies are the ones that actually build you wealth because they're boring.
Because they're boring, they stand the test of time. No one has an endless amount of energy forever. You need to find something that's gonna just be able to stick around regardless of what energy levels you have. Um, I actually saw a reel about a woman I'd never even heard of before, um, and it was about who the wealthiest self-made woman is in the United States. And the first people that might come to mind for the average person is maybe it's Taylor Swift, maybe it's Kim Kardashian, but
Or
it's actually
Kylie Jenner.
or Kylie Jenner. But it's actually a woman called Diane Hendricks. Have you heard of Diane Hendricks?
No, who is Diane Hendricks?
Well, she is the co-founder of a company called ABC Supply Company Incorporated and has a net worth of $22.3 billion dollars. And yeah,
Net.
she's top net, and she's topped the list for the seventh consecutive year. Um, and her business is really boring. It's her company is one about the wholesale distribution of roofing and windows. Like it's like, but thing is, there's always going to be a demand. People need roofs. People need
Yeah.
windows.
On a sidetrack as well, I remember with mum watching, I was like Orange County because mum was watching it. And,
Hmm.
and so I was watching it with her. And there was a guy, a husband of one of the women, and he was so wealthy. And you know what he did, which is also another boring business, and why he got so wealthy? Is because his business just made portable toilets for prisons.
So random,
So
but there's
random.
a need.
Yeah, but like, that is it. It's just that. And you go, wow, he's really rich. No, not rich, wealthy, just because he made portaloos.
Yeah, because what one thing's for certain, people gonna need to go at some point somewhere, even prisoners. Um, I love that. It's like I know that we have been suckered in um to be honest, there's something about being feeling proud about what your business is.
Mm.
And if you're going to share it with other people, you want it to sound a bit sexy and glamorous. And I feel like
Like,
that's,
ooh, look at
oh,
my,
wow, look at that.
I make toilets.
But really, I'm thinking it's actually boring is actually very sexy instead. And the more simple your business is, or more simple the concept is, the better, because it's going to stick around. Or if it fulfills a an ongoing demand and it isn't like a trending, fleeting thing, then yeah, you're more likely going to be wealthy.
I mean, I look at our history. We've been investing for like a decade, and what strategy has been the one that has stood the test of time out of the strategies that we have done?
People call it vanilla, and I don't like that people call it vanilla because it makes it sound like
It's
it's
a
boring.
classic.
Yeah, but vanilla buy-to-lets are fantastic. Um,
Our vanillas are the ones that have vanilla pod in it. You know, like it's like fancier vanilla
yeah.
ice cream and it's got vanilla pods in it. So you get like the little bits of like black and you're like, it's not just like a cheap
You can
vanilla
get
flavor.
quality
It's
vanilla.
quality vanilla,
Yeah, that's
vanilla pod
unbeatable.
in it. And those are the ones that have stood the test of time. We've done service accommodation, HMOs, what has been our best? Single let, family let, buy to lets.
Yeah, but on the topic of diversification, um, I just want to say that diversification in many boring things is really where it's at.
Mm.
Um, so if you spread your, so we tried diversifying different property strategies, but ultimately the type of that asset type is the same asset type. We were just being a bit riskier. We were just playing with different riskier strategies, but the asset type never changed. Um, Maybe rent to rent is more like a business that we set up, but we didn't diversify away enough from that, um,
From property
from
itself.
prop exactly.
Yeah, that's
Um,
why I would say, I know we're called the Honest Property Sisters, but really what we're about is building wealth, not just in property, but diversifying into multiple asset classes to make sure that you don't keep all your eggs in one basket when it comes to your wealth, to wealth storage.
exactly. So I wouldn't say, I know it might make logical sense to be like, okay, I'm gonna stick to this industry and try lots of different things in this industry because perhaps you have a better grasp of how everything works already. So why don't you try a little bit of this, a little bit of that? But in terms of investing, you want to diversify your asset classes.
You want to think
So
about ecosystem.
yeah. And when you do that, that spreads your risk and softens the blow if one sector tanks. As you know, or maybe you don't know, the UK property world is having tons of different regulations and rules, and there's a lot more limiting factors that are beyond your control, whether you're doing buy-to-let, HMO, or serviced accommodation now. So
Or
this one sector is getting impacted, and if all of your diversifying was in that sector, you're really gonna feel the impact. Whereas
mm,
if you had something that was property and something else that was totally unrelated, um, that gives you multiple potential paths to wealth. So it could be you could have property, you can have your stocks, you can have your bonds, cash, and alternative income. So you're not gambling it all on one uncertain outcome.
yeah.
Yeah. So for property investors, especially inflation, interest rate swings, and just the volatility of the UK right now is the biggest worry. And I think we were feeling that over the last couple of years because we were seeing those changes happening in real time, and had to make the switch and basically realized what we'd done. We'd put too much of our energy and money and attention in one. Yeah. So what do you think the
So
trade-offs are?
I think that. Um, Also, I would also say that because we've done property was our first strategy of wealth building for a very long time. We did it because it was the fastest way it is the fastest way to become very wealthy. But a lot of people, because stocks and shares is a lot is a lower barrier to entry to get into, eventually when they build up their portfolio enough, they end up investing into property as their next thing. With Becky and I right now, we have gone from starting with property and now we're diversifying into other asset classes to spread our risk, which I think is smart. And then just because we do property and we scream and shout about property doesn't mean that we believe in um, um, only having that source of that one way of wealth storage and income coming in. We believe in multiple streams of income.
Mm.
Otherwise, that's also diversifying your risk too. If you're relying on one income stream, that's not great in this economy either. But so the trade-off really is that it will probably be slower. That if you are investing in stocks and bonds and other alternatives like that, then it is a bit slower than property wealth, which does.
Hey guys, if you're new to property investing, we know exactly how hard it is to figure out where to start. That's why we created the Beginner's Roadmap. It's your guide to mastering the fundamentals so that you can move forward with clarity and confidence. Just hit the link in the show notes. Now, let's jump back into this episode. If you know how to buy, if you are educated in how to buy smart, you can make your, like, at least for UK property market, the game is understanding leverage, and you can make your investment start paying you now as opposed to later.
How much
That's
is it
the
that you need from like to actually make the same amount of money from your stocks and shares?
If you're
Uh,
doing like dividend stocks and shares and you factored in tax as well, that's roughly around £375,000 you'd need to have, which
in
is
there,
hard to get
yeah. Unless you're like a high income earner,
just to earn £1,000 a month.
which doesn't seem like very much.
And yeah, it's not as easy to get to that point as it is through the property asset class. You can
Well,
you
I
can
would
put
say
down
it's
much
a lot
less.
like if you had a great like a high income earning job and then you were able to shovel a lot of that money into that, then that works. But in our case, we didn't have a lot of money, but we knew how to borrow money. And I wouldn't say that property investing is easy either. It takes a lot more physical skill to get a property up and running. But if you have physical skills to be able to do that, then that's like a good route to go. But if you are someone
Yeah,
who,
like if you're already a contractor and you have the skills, like the one thing that is admittedly out of our control is the cost of trades, the cost of council tax, and how much the mortgage rate, because most buy-to-let owners have a mortgage unless you don't have that anymore. There's just so much more out of your, there are factors that are out of your control.
yeah,
Um, but then it's equally nice having something that is tangible there that you have some control over.
yeah. But another trade-off as well is that if you're spreading across many assets, it can feel really not that exciting because it's supposed to be boring. But then I'd say then you can focus on your business or job that you actually love. Well, if this is a freelancer edition, the business that you actually get excited about waking up to do. Like
Yeah,
that point when they say you never work a day in your life because you like genuinely love what you do, but also put some bad boundaries in there too.
yeah,
And also you need a lot of discipline and patience. So if you don't have that, then like that's the only way that wealth is built is because you have a lot of patience and discipline, and that is it. But we live in a world now where instant gratification is the norm. Delayed gratification barely exists anymore.
Yeah.
So why is diversification arguably more relevant now than ever? Because in 2005, the market has higher interest rates, which we have been hit by.
Hmm.
Global volatility are rising, and inflation, which is literally plastered all over the newspapers, that inflation is just consistently is the only constant that keeps happening. So,
Mm.
but yeah, but if you have a diversified portfolio, it will help you to not feel so much volatility, keeps you mobile and more flexible when there are downturns in the economy. When do you think, Becky, that it makes sense to go deeper in one area? And when does that become reckless? Can we talk from our own experience?
Yeah, I think I've already mentioned it before, how we just carried on trying lots of different property strategies. To be fair,
We got bored.
we got bored and
We didn't
something
want to wait
shinier
for
with
a
more
refinance.
potential. Sorry, say that again.
We got bored because we couldn't be bothered to wait for a refinance, and we should have. And so we started rent to rent.
Yeah, that was a deep regret. Um, but it all made sense on paper, so I'm not mad at us for trying it.
Me either.
Um,
Yeah, I actually enjoyed learning how to negotiate negotiate, and we learned how to do that and like what to say over the phone. So I actually
mhm.
that was quite a skill with a lot of rejection, but that was actually really, really helpful in building confidence. So I'd say I don't regret that.
But I think now I personally have diversified into ETFs that align with my values. So, um, none of them are anything to do with property. I've got ISAs as well, and I am learning a lot more about other asset classes because we've been deep and kind of narrow-minded with the property world. I think it's also because old older education has always said property is the way that you make a lot of money. And okay, this could probably lead on to a totally different podcast, but like we all know, just because that's what worked for your parents or past generations doesn't mean it's going to work as well for this generation or in the same way, or you need to modify it a lot differently to how things were done before. Um, the truth at the moment is the birth rate is not the same as it was before. So that old saying of the people are going to continue to be like the population is going to continue to grow. So there's always going to be a need for houses. It's just not the same at the moment.
Do
Because
you think that's why
less,
a lot of people have gotten to HMOs?
do you want to expand? I don't know.
As in, like, that's probably why a lot of people have gone into HMOs because people are not able to live and have like the family house with the white picket fence anymore because they can't afford it. So they're all living in shared accommodation because also there are people who don't want to have kids. So they're more and more living in shared accommodation. But
Mm.
the
It's
issue,
like, yeah, the society is changing. It's not the same like families with like 2.5 children anymore. It's
one,
if that. Like so you have to adapt to the market. Like right now, I'm in Malaysia and I'm living in a co-working accommodation and I just see the future in this. type of living setup because there's
Also, I see it as like I'm a mum living also in Malaysia, but in another part. And what I see is majority of parents have one child and they live in condominiums. They don't want a big
exactly,
house because that's
exactly.
like not what they only have one kid.
We value mobility, flexibility, and being able to work remotely. And that is just what this next generation is like. There's a huge amount of people living like this now, and it's just adapting to what the market's becoming because it's just not what it used to be anymore. Have I digressed a bit too far? I don't know, but I'm just saying whatever worked before doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work now. So it's wise to diversify in lots of different things. ETFs,
Exactly.
bonds,
So that if you ever
ISAs.
have to set, like, we obviously advocate for trying to hold on as long as you can, but if there is a point where you actually do then need to pivot properly and put and like sell and put your money elsewhere, that's like in correlation with is actually happening in the economy and may
Mm.
look like for until we retire, then you have to go with what's happening, not be stubborn and hold on to the old ways.
I think I felt
Great.
like because Ruth and I sold a property in order to be like use the funds strategically in order to be able to be more location free. Um, the way that we live now, I felt guilty and I felt like I was they always say hold on to it for as long as possible, but it was a strategic move to sell it, and you have to adapt strategically with your assets and diversify. And I think the thing that let me down it wasn't us, it was the UK market. The UK market had changed and we needed to adapt. So, on your question of when it makes sense to go deeper in one area, one area would of pro if the topic is property, I would I realized that we were vulnerable because all of our properties were in the UK.
Hmm.
So I would go deeper. I would continue with property, just
Try
not in the
elsewhere.
UK. I'll
Yeah,
try elsewhere
everything,
because
not
yeah,
everything in one basket, in one
exactly.
economy.
But we didn't think like that. We were like, why would you depend on just one market? Um,
I mean, why would like people invest global global index funds? You don't, it's not just the UK. That would be reckless. So why would it not make sense to do that in other asset classes? And when does that become reckless?
when does what become reckless? I think you've answered your own question, right? If you just stay in the UK and just keep, like, for example, with us as an example, you just carry on buying regardless of the market changes based on old
Only one
thinking.
type of asset.
Yeah, only one type of asset in one type of market. Um, I think that's reckless. Or like say if you were doing crypto and you just kept putting your money in crypto and that was it.
Mm.
Um, any one like too much in one particular asset class, I think is reckless.
Before we continue, here's a quick thought. Ever feel like there's just never enough time to focus on what really matters in your business? You don't have to do it all alone. As they say, a great team makes everything easier. That's why we've partnered with the Freedom Geek. Their talented Filipino VAs help us with tasks like admin and podcast editing, just like for this episode, giving us the freedom to focus on what really moves the needle. If you're looking to reclaim your time and to work smarter, then check out the Freedom Geek. All the details are in the show notes. Now let's get back to our conversation.
What about when, like, if you are holding onto your assets for a long time, it can be really easy. I think it can be, I know we did sell one of our properties, but that we really thought that one through. But if you
Mm,
are like wealth is basically just holding on to assets for as long as you can and don't sell it is basically the rule. I mean, if you look at Buffett, he does sell, but it's very strategic. He knows what he's doing,
mm.
but he holds on to a lot for a long time. That's why he's so wealthy. But how do as if you're a freelancer and you are pumped up with excitement all the time, And if it fades, then how do you carry on a discipline to just continue having, being able to hold on to what you've built without selling all of it because you got bored, you know? Because it can be so easy to just go, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just gonna just go, oh, I'm done, and throw it all away.
Do you have an answer for that?
I was gonna, well, I was gonna say, with how we did it, where we looked at our whole portfolio. He's like, look at your whole portfolio, look at your goals, look at like not just your immediate goals, because it's also about delayed gratification. That's the whole point of wealth building, is that you can delay gratification for a long time so that you are better off in the future, not just now, is to really just look at everything that you've built and then really pick at the pros and cons out of the performance of each part of your asset classes in your portfolio and go, okay, what's going to get me to here that I need now? And what's going to get me to make sure that I'm protected for my retirement and my future? By selling everything
Mm.
all in one go is like, if you're keeping yourself as a freelancer, you are working, you are the asset in your business. Even if you have systems in place, you're still managing, running your business. You have to also think to yourself, do I want to continue doing this when I am old? Or do I want the option to also to be able to say, no, I don't want to continue doing this anymore? Then it makes sure that you hold on to what you're investing for as long as you can as well, because it will be worth it later on.
I agree. I think you have to, it sounds emotional if you're the kind of person who gets who thrives on the new possibilities and the potential of things and loves starting businesses. But it boils down to the facts, and that was the exercise we did. We looked at our entire portfolio. Who's underperforming? What is not giving us the yield or the cash flow that it is we need right now or for the future? And then base your decisions if you need to adjust your portfolio on
Yeah.
the facts and the statistics of what it is bringing, what it is doing for you.
Because the reason why a pension was created was so that people would take their future seriously. That was like, so you locked it in, you couldn't get it out until you were like 60 something. I know it keeps rising. And actually, your pension's not like the most, like you're not going to get like the most from it. But it was a way to get people to create the habit of investing into their future so that they didn't think they weren't just living for now, so that they didn't have anything in their future to have like to have any sort of life. I think
Mm.
eventually the pension will be scrapped. That's just what I think, because there's not enough people that are being born to be able to keep contributing into our pension later on, because that's how it works. So you do have to invest. But then if you are able to pull out your money in investing so easily, then it like you need to treat it like as well a portion of your wealth building strategy, as a portion of it is really acting as your pension, not so easily just sell it all. If you treat it
Mm.
like how a pension has been set up, but you're the one in charge of it, then do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
That like that's why
You
pension,
need to self-discipline
yeah, self-discipline.
your investment habits.
Yeah.
I've automated putting an amount into my ETFs every single month. It's automating where your investment is like that whole pay yourself first thing.
Yeah.
So to conclude, our stance is to keep it, if you agree, simple and maybe boring is sexy. Diversification isn't glamorous. Um, if I shared what my ETFs are, they're very personal decisions to me, but I still want them to be like effective and impactful. But they're not interesting topics, really. And our vanilla buy-to-lets aren't beautiful giant hotels either, but they work the best. So your diversification doesn't need to be glamorous. What you see on social media is more likely to be a lot of hype for shiny penny things that are more about making money fast now, but it's just not realistic or sustainable in the long run in most cases. And if any particular market wobbles and the interest rates jump and inflation bites you in the butt, it's the
It's the simple
diversify.
stuff. It's a diversification, but it's also the simple strategies that actually gets you through it, just like it did
Mm,
when we were in COVID and
mm,
with our sexy buy-to-lets
mm.
that got us through.
Yeah, literally. Um, yeah, it's having downward resistant foundations and working towards that. Whatever your passions are, your freelance thing is, your entrepreneurial thing is your passion on top, but having um, building your freedom on downward resistant foundations is key.
Mm. Like, don't neglect it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's everything for today, and we look forward to talk. If you have any questions at all, or you have more to expand on this topic, please leave a comment down below. Send us a DM on Instagram at Honest Property Sisters, and we look forward to having a conversation with you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.